Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There's something rather peculiar about those moments when we find ourselves completely lost. We panic, don't we? We scramble about, searching desperately for direction, for some sign, some indication of where we ought to be going. And yet, what if I were to suggest to you that this very feeling of being lost is precisely the moment when the path is being revealed? Now, you see, we've been conditioned to believe that knowing where we're going is the same thing as actually arriving somewhere worthwhile. We think that certainty, that beautiful, comforting sense of having it all figured out, is the hallmark of a life well lived. But here's the thing, the universe doesn't work that way. Life, in its infinite wisdom, has a rather different curriculum in mind for us. When you feel lost, you're actually standing at one of the most sacred thresholds you'll ever encounter. You're in that liminal space, that in-between place where the old has fallen away and the new hasn't quite emerged yet. And most people, they can't stand it. They rush to fill that void with anything, any distraction, any false certainty, any premature conclusion, just to escape the discomfort of not knowing. But what if this feeling of being lost is actually a form of profound honesty? What if it's your deeper self finally admitting that the map you've been following wasn't really yours to begin with? You've been walking someone else's path, you see, following directions that were given to you by parents, by society, by all those well-meaning voices that told you what you should want, what you should become, where you should be heading. And now you've arrived at this beautiful, terrifying moment of truth. The compass has stopped working, the familiar landmarks have disappeared, and in this disorientation, this gorgeous confusion, something real can finally begin to happen, because you can't find a new path while you're still convinced you're on the right one. You can't discover your authentic direction while you're marching confidently in the wrong direction, can you? So let's explore this together, this mystery of being lost and found simultaneously. Now, one of the great mistakes we make, and it's a rather universal one, is assuming that life has a fixed destination. We're told from childhood, aren't we, that we need to know what we want to be, where we want to go, what we want to achieve, as if life were a sort of train journey with a predetermined schedule and a final station where we all ought to arrive. But you see, this whole notion is fundamentally at odds with the nature of existence itself. Life isn't linear. It's not a straight line from birth to death with all the important milestones clearly marked along the way. Life is more like a dance, or perhaps a river. And a river doesn't have a destination, not really. It simply flows. Sometimes it rushes forward with tremendous force. Sometimes it meanders lazily through the countryside. Sometimes it pools in quiet eddies before continuing on its way. When we insist on having a fixed destination, when we cling desperately to our 5-year plans and our carefully constructed goals, we're essentially trying to freeze the river. We're attempting to make fluid what is inherently dynamic. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, why we feel lost, why nothing seems to be working out according to plan. Here's what happens, you see. You set a goal based on who you were at a particular moment in time. Perhaps you were 20 years old, fresh out of university, full of idealism and ambition. You decided you wanted to become a lawyer or a doctor or a business executive. And that goal, it made perfect sense for the person you were then. But you're not that person anymore, are you? You've changed. You've grown. You've encountered experiences and insights that have transformed you in subtle and not so subtle ways. And yet, you're still marching toward that old destination. You're still trying to honor a promise you made to a version of yourself that no longer exists. Is it any wonder you feel lost? You're lost because you're trying to reach a place that no longer has any real meaning for you. The destination itself has become obsolete, but you haven't quite realized it yet. This is where the real adventure begins. When you stop demanding that life conform to your predetermined itinerary, when you release your grip on that fixed destination, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice things you never saw before. Opportunities that were always there suddenly become visible. Paths you never considered suddenly seem viable, even exciting. Being lost, in this sense, is actually being found by life itself, which has been trying to redirect you all along. There's a certain wisdom, a profound intelligence actually, hidden within confusion itself. Now, this might sound paradoxical, and it is. But stay with me here, because this is rather important. We've been taught to view confusion as something negative, something to be eliminated as quickly as possible. Confusion is seen as a problem that needs to be solved, a deficiency that needs to be corrected. But what if confusion is actually a kind of clarity? What if the confused mind is the honest mind, the mind that's finally admitting it doesn't have all the answers? You see, the opposite of confusion isn't clarity, not really. The opposite of confusion is false certainty, and false certainty is far more dangerous than honest confusion because false certainty keeps you locked in patterns that no longer serve you. Think about it this way: when you're genuinely confused, when you really don't know what to do or where to turn, your conceptual mind, your thinking mind, finally quiets down. It has to, doesn't it? Because thinking hasn't produced any answers. All your analysis, all your planning, all your strategic maneuvering, none of it has worked. And in that moment of mental exhaustion, of intellectual surrender, something else can emerge. There's a deeper knowing, an intelligence that operates below the level of conscious thought, that only reveals itself when the thinking mind admits defeat. This intelligence doesn't speak in words or logical arguments. It speaks in feelings, in intuitions, in sudden recognitions that can't quite be explained but feel undeniably true. And this intelligence, it can only be heard in the silence that follows confusion. So when you feel confused, when you feel utterly lost and without direction, you're actually in a state of openness. Your defenses are down, your certainties have crumbled. And in that vulnerable space, life can actually reach you, guidance can actually penetrate. But it won't come in the form you expect. It won't be a booming voice from the heavens telling you exactly what to do. It will be subtle, a quiet pull in a certain direction, an unexpected interest in something you'd never considered before, a chance encounter that seems to point the way. The confusion itself is doing something quite sophisticated, you see. It's breaking down the rigid structures of your old understanding. It's composting your outdated beliefs, your outmoded strategies, your obsolete ways of seeing yourself and the world. And from that compost, from that rich soil of dissolved certainties, something new can grow, something authentic, something truly yours. Now let's be honest about something. Being lost is terrifying, and anyone who tells you otherwise is either lying or hasn't been genuinely lost. There's a visceral fear that arises when you don't know where you're going, when you can't see the way forward, when all your familiar reference points have vanished. This fear, it's not something to be dismissed or transcended too quickly. It deserves to be acknowledged because it's pointing to something real, the terror of being lost. It touches on some of our most primal fears, doesn't it? The fear of making the wrong choice, the fear of wasting our lives, the fear of ending up alone, unsuccessful, unfulfilled, and underneath all of that, there's the fear of not mattering, of not being significant, of living and dying without leaving a mark on the world. These fears, they're absolutely universal. Every human being has felt them at one time or another. But here's what's interesting about this terror. It's based on the assumption that there is a right path and a wrong path, that somewhere out there there's a correct version of your life waiting to be lived. And if you make the wrong turns, you'll miss it entirely. You'll end up in the wrong life, living the wrong story, becoming the wrong person. And that possibility, it's almost unbearable, isn't it? Except, what if that whole framework is mistaken? What if there isn't a right path and a wrong path, but simply paths? What if every direction you could possibly go holds its own unique set of experiences, lessons, and revelations? You see, the universe is not a narrow tunnel with one correct exit. It's more like an infinite garden with countless paths, all of them leading somewhere interesting, all of them teaching you something valuable. The path you're on right now, even if it feels like you're completely lost, even if it feels like you've made terrible mistakes, this path is revealing something to you. It's showing you something you needed to see. Perhaps it's showing you what you don't want. And that's just as valuable as knowing what you do want, isn't it? Perhaps it's showing you a capacity for resilience you didn't know you had. Perhaps it's introducing you to a version of yourself that could never have emerged on the safe, predictable path you thought you were supposed to follow. The terror of the open road. It's really the terror of freedom. Because when you're lost, you're free. You're not bound by anyone else's expectations anymore. You're not following someone else's map. You're in the wilderness, and yes, it's frightening, but it's also exhilarating, because now anything is possible. You know, there's something that happens in those moments of profound disorientation, something that most people miss entirely because they're too busy panicking. Your soul starts speaking, or rather, it's been speaking all along, but you're finally quiet enough to hear it. Because you see, when you feel lost, when you don't know what to do next, that chattering monkey mind of yours finally exhausts itself. And in that exhaustion, that lovely silence, other voices can emerge. Your soul has been trying to get your attention for quite some time, actually. It's been sending you signals, little nudges, whispers, intuitions that something wasn't quite right about the direction you were heading. Perhaps it was that gnawing sense of dissatisfaction you felt even when you achieved what you thought you wanted, or that inexplicable pull towards something you kept dismissing as impractical, unrealistic, impossible. Or those moments of aliveness you felt doing something completely unrelated to your career goals, your life plan, your identity. But you didn't listen, did you? None of us do, not really, because the soul speaks in a language that our rational mind can't quite interpret. It doesn't deal in logic or practicality. It deals in resonance, in vitality, in that unmistakable feeling of rightness that has nothing to do with whether something makes sense on paper. And in a world that values rationality above all else, we learn to dismiss these deeper knowings as foolish, naive, indulgent. So your soul, it had to get more dramatic. It had to pull the rug out from under you entirely. It had to engineer the situation where you feel completely lost, where all your plans have fallen apart, where you simply cannot continue in the direction you were going. And now you're listening. Not because you want to, but because you have no choice. You've run out of alternatives. This is what being lost really is, you see. It's your soul's way of interrupting the program, of breaking the trance, of forcing you to stop and question whether the life you've been living is actually your life at all. And the answer, if you're really honest with yourself, is usually no. It's been a life you constructed based on other people's values, other people's definitions of success, other people's ideas about who you should be and what you should accomplish. And your soul, your authentic self, the deepest truth of who you are, it's been suffocating under the weight of all those borrowed ambitions. It's been dying slowly while you pursued things that looked good but felt empty. And finally, mercifully, it's staged this intervention. It's made you lost so that you could be found by yourself, by your own truth, by your own unique path that no one else could possibly walk. Here's something crucial that most people misunderstand about finding direction when they're lost. They think they need to figure it all out first. Work out the entire route, see the complete map, understand exactly where they're going before they take a single step. And so they wait. They sit in their confusion, paralyzed, hoping that clarity will descend upon them like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the entire path from beginning to end. But it doesn't work that way, you see. The path doesn't reveal itself to those who stand still, waiting for perfect certainty. The path reveals itself through movement, through action, through experimentation, through taking the next step, even when you can't see the one after that. This is one of the great secrets of life that no one tells you. Clarity comes through engagement, not through contemplation alone. Think of it like driving through fog at night. You can't see very far ahead, perhaps only a few feet in front of your headlights, but you can see enough to move forward safely. And as you move forward, more of the road reveals itself. The path appears precisely because you're moving along it. If you stopped and refused to drive until the fog cleared and you could see the entire journey ahead, well, you'd be sitting there forever, wouldn't you? This is where most people get stuck when they're feeling lost. They're waiting for the complete picture, the total understanding, the absolute certainty before they're willing to move. But that's not how revelation works. Revelation is progressive. It unfolds step by step, moment by moment, action by action. You take one step, and the next step becomes visible. You follow one intuition, and the next intuition arises. You say yes to one opportunity, and that creates the conditions for the next opportunity to appear. Now, this requires a tremendous amount of courage, doesn't it? because you're moving without knowing where you'll end up. You're following a trail of breadcrumbs without seeing the house they're leading to. You're trusting in a process that offers no guarantees, no insurance policies, no certainty of outcome. And every fiber of your conditioned being rebels against this. Every anxious thought screams that you need more information, more clarity, more certainty before you dare to move. But here's the beautiful paradox. The very act of moving, even in uncertainty, even in confusion, even in fear, that creates clarity, because each action you take provides feedback. It tells you something. You try something and it feels right, or it feels wrong, or it feels interesting, or it feels dead. And that feeling, that direct, immediate, visceral response to thought, that's your compass. That's how the path reveals itself. Not through thinking about it, but through doing it and feeling your way forward. There's a quality of mind, a state of being, really, that we've almost entirely lost in modern life. It's the quality of not knowing, of being genuinely open to surprise, to discovery, to having reality show itself to you in ways you never anticipated. And this quality, it only emerges when you've surrendered your need to know, your compulsion to figure everything out, your attachment to being the expert on your own life. Now, this might sound like a rather passive or defeated state, this not knowing, but actually it's the most alive, most aware, most intelligent state you can occupy, because when you know, when you think you know, you stop looking, you stop listening, you filter everything through your pre-existing conclusions. Life becomes a confirmation of what you already believe rather than a revelation of what actually is. But when you don't know, when you're genuinely lost and confused and uncertain, you become acutely attentive. Every moment becomes pregnant with potential meaning. Every encounter could be significant. Every impulse could be guidance. You're like someone who's just arrived in a foreign country where you don't speak the language. You watch carefully, you notice everything, you're alert to nuances you would never perceive if you thought you already understood the situation. This is the gift of being lost. It returns you to beginner's mind, to that state of openness and curiosity that children have naturally, but most adults have lost entirely. And in this state of not knowing, you're actually capable of learning something real, something true, something that can genuinely transform you. Whereas when you think you know, you can only reinforce what you already believe. The path that's being revealed to you, it can only reveal itself to someone who doesn't already know what it should look like. If you had a rigid idea of what your path ought to be, where it should lead, what it should provide, you'd miss the actual path entirely. You'd walk right past it because it wouldn't match your expectations. You'd dismiss it as not good enough, not prestigious enough, not lucrative enough, not whatever enough. But when you don't know, when you're empty of preconceptions, you can recognize the path when it appears, even if it looks nothing like what you imagined, even if it seems to lead in a completely unexpected direction, even if it offers something you didn't realize you needed. This not knowing, it's not ignorance. It's the highest form of wisdom, actually. It's the wisdom that knows it doesn't know and is therefore capable of being taught by life itself. Now, here's where it gets rather interesting. When you're feeling lost, you often think it's because there are no signs, no guidance, no indication of which way to go. But actually, the signs are everywhere. They've always been there. You've just been reading them wrong. You've been looking for the signs you expected to see rather than recognizing the signs that are actually present. What do I mean by this? Well, we tend to look for signs that confirm our existing plans, that validate our predetermined directions, that tell us we're on the right track according to the track we think we should be on. We want signs that say, yes, keep doing what you're doing, you're heading toward the success you've imagined for yourself. And when we don't get those signs, when we get obstacles instead, or detours, or what appear to be failures, we think the universe isn't responding. We think we're lost because there's no guidance. But those obstacles, those detours, those apparent failures, they are the signs. They're just not the signs you wanted to receive. They're the universe's way of saying, not that way, this way instead. They're course corrections, redirections, gentle and sometimes not so gentle nudges toward your actual path as opposed to the path you think you should be on. You see, when doors close, when opportunities fall through, when relationships end, when jobs disappear, we interpret these as losses, as setbacks, as evidence that we're going in the wrong direction. And sometimes that's exactly what they are. But the direction that's wrong isn't the general direction of your life. It's the specific direction you were trying to force. The universe isn't saying you're lost. It's saying you're on the wrong path. Let me show you another one. This requires a complete reversal of how we typically interpret our experience, doesn't it? Instead of seeing difficulties as problems to be overcome so you can continue in your chosen direction, you begin to see them as information, as feedback, as the path's way of revealing itself through what doesn't work. The closed door isn't an obstacle, it's a sign that says not there. The rejection isn't a failure, it's a sign that says not that. The confusion isn't a deficit, it's a sign that says slow down, pay attention. There's something here you need to understand before moving forward. And once you learn to read signs this way, once you stop demanding that the universe confirm your plans and instead start listening to what the universe is actually telling you, suddenly you're not lost anymore. Suddenly there's information everywhere. Every experience, pleasant or unpleasant, becomes a form of guidance. Every result, desired or undesired, becomes a message. And the path, it reveals itself not in spite of the difficulties you encounter, but through them. So we come to this, the real reason people stay lost even when the path is being revealed. It's not because they can't see the way forward, it's because the way forward requires them to diverge from the well-worn trail that everyone else is following. And that takes a kind of courage that most people simply don't want to summon. Because it's lonely, you see. It's profoundly, sometimes painfully lonely to walk your own path. When you follow the conventional route, when you pursue the career everyone recognizes, the lifestyle everyone understands, the goals everyone approves of, you have company, you have validation. You have the comfort of being able to explain yourself easily, of being understood, of fitting in. People nod with comprehension when you tell them what you're doing. They say, "Ah yes, makes sense, good for you." But when you start following your actual path, when you begin responding to that deeper call that doesn't make sense to anyone else, you lose that validation. People become confused, they become concerned. They start asking questions that reveal their worry that you're making a terrible mistake. But what about security? But what about your degree? But what about what everyone expected of you? And their concern, it's not unreasonable. They care about you. They want you to be safe, to be successful by the measures they understand. And yet, their concern becomes a weight you have to carry because every time you try to explain your path, you encounter this wall of incomprehension, this resistance that forces you to question yourself. Am I being foolish? Am I deceiving myself? Am I throwing away everything I worked for on some naive whim? And maybe you are. Maybe you're making the biggest mistake of your life. Or maybe you're finally making the first real decision of your life. This is where faith comes in. Not religious faith necessarily, but a deeper trust in your own experience, in your own knowing, in that authentic impulse that feels more real than anything you've felt before, even though you can't quite justify it rationally. This faith, it doesn't eliminate the fear. It doesn't make the path any clearer. It doesn't guarantee anything. But it gives you the courage to take the next step anyway. And here's what happens when you do. When you actually commit to walking your own path, even though it's lonely, even though it's terrifying, even though no one else understands, you discover something extraordinary. You discover that you're stronger than you thought you were. You discover resources within yourself that you never knew existed. You discover a sense of aliveness, of authenticity, of being genuinely yourself that makes all the sacrifices worthwhile. So, when you feel lost, what's really happening? You're being liberated. The path is being revealed precisely because you've finally stopped insisting that it look a certain way. You've run out of answers, and that's exactly where wisdom begins. You've exhausted your strategies, and that's exactly where grace can enter. You've lost your way, and that's exactly how you find yourself. The feeling of being lost, it's not a problem that needs to be fixed. It's not evidence that something has gone wrong. It's a threshold, a portal, an initiation into a more authentic way of living. And the path that's being revealed, it's been there all along. It's been waiting for you to become lost enough, confused enough, desperate enough to finally see it. Because you can't see a new path while you're still convinced you're on the right one. You can't discover your authentic direction while you're marching confidently in the wrong direction. You can't hear the whisper of your soul while you're drowning out its voice with the noise of everyone else's expectations. You had to get lost, completely, thoroughly, terrifyingly lost, to become available to be found. And now you're at the beginning, not the end as you feared, the beginning. Everything that brought you to this moment, all the confusion, all the failure, all the pain, it wasn't wasted, it was preparation, it was education, it was the demolition required before something new could be built, your old life, your old identity, your old path. It had to crumble, not because it was bad, but because it wasn't yours. It was borrowed, it was inherited, it was assembled from other people's blueprints. What's being revealed now is different. It's authentic, it's alive, it's infused with your own essence, rather than constructed from external expectations. And yes, it's terrifying. Yes, it's uncertain. Yes, it requires you to walk alone for a while, to trust in things you can't see, to move forward without knowing where you'll end up. But isn't that what you've been longing for all along? This sense of really living, of really being yourself, of really engaging with life rather than just performing the role you thought you were supposed to play. The path is being revealed. Not somewhere out there, but right here. Not someday in the future, but right now. In this moment of not knowing, of confusion, of apparent lostness, the way forward is emerging. Can you feel it? Can you sense it? That subtle pull in a certain direction, that quiet interest in something new, that growing recognition that perhaps being lost was the sanest thing that could have happened to you. Trust it, follow it, one step at a time, without needing to see the entire journey. The path reveals itself to those who walk it, not to those who stand still demanding certainty. And you're ready now, ready to stop being lost and start being found, ready to stop following someone else's map and start discovering your own territory, ready to stop searching for the path and start being the path. This is it. This is the moment. Not when you finally figure it all out, but when you finally surrender to not knowing and discover that not knowing is itself a form of profound wisdom. When you feel lost, the path is being revealed. It always has been. You just needed to become empty enough, open enough, lost enough to finally see it.